Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name is Luke Payson, and I'm honored to be joined by returning guest of the show, fresh off a TKO LFA victory, Josh, the Flyin Hawaiian Perreira. Josh, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me again, brother. Always appreciate it.
It's great having you on the show. It's really fun being able to follow you right at the very end of your impressive amateur career where you had 7 wins, 1 loss. And now you're 2-0 as a pro. Let's jump in. What was the experience like making your debut for LFA? Before we talk about your win and the finish, what was it like fighting for LFA?
It was so professional. Everything was set up. I went back to the locker rooms. There was a bucket with my name on it, gloves specifically my size. Everything was ready. Everything was perfect. If you needed something, LFA was there to provide it. And yeah, it was unreal, and I'm looking forward to the next one for them as well.
Okay, that's great. Are you on a fight by fight situation for them, or is there some type of multiple fight contract? And of course, if you don't want to discuss contracts, that's fine. But I know some regional promotions do brief 3-4 fight contracts. Some it's like fight by fight. But you are looking to fight for them again.
Yeah, absolutely. The first fight was just a 1-fight contract, but they said they liked what they saw, and my manager said that they're very interested in me having being on the show, being on their show again. But yeah, just excited for what the future holds.
Well, that's incredible. And that's kind of the best case scenario, not only to get a finish, but part of you finishing. Right now, you have 2 finishes in your pro career, 2 wins, 1 by rear naked choke, your debut, and now a TKO, which in many ways rounds out your finishes since you have a submission in TKO. Let's walk through the TKO. It came in the 3rd round. So what was round 1 and 2 like for you? And then kind of set us up how you got to the ground and pound elbow finish in round 3.
Yeah, round 1, actually even going before all of that, I actually wasn't able to hit pads or anything backstage. It was instantly wrap my hands. Jade went out, she finished her opponent in about 45 seconds with an armbar in the first round. And next thing you know, right after I wrapped my hands, I was like, okay, let's go, let's start warming up. And then all of a sudden, Mr. Perreira, you're up. I was like, what? So first round, he was a little faster with the kickboxing exchanges, just a hair faster, but I was able to close the distance. I caught one of his kicks and immediately slammed him onto his back. We got back to our feet, and he engaged the clinch, and I started throwing elbows, knees to the body, got him down with a sweep. He was very persistent with the arm bar off of his back, and I had gotten out of it twice in the first round. Nothing, didn't really, he kind of threw it up there slow, and I was able to get out of it and muscle my way out of it. And I ended the first round. I actually landed a knee on him, which rocked him, made him go down to a 3-point stance. So I was like, okay, better not knee him again, or I'll get disqualified like Peter Yan.
Yeah.
And stood him back up, spinning elbow. He was just rocked up against the fence, and I just kept teeing off elbows and knees. Ended the first round pretty dominantly. Second round, I get into my groove, spinning back kick to the body, lead hook to the body, which drops him, and I start raining down hammer fists and getting to like kickstand position to start throwing a little bit more. And yet again, he shoots up his arm bar, and I was just like, I'll get out of it again. It's all good. And then the 4th time he shoots it up, it's the deepest arm bar I've ever been in. It hyperextends my arm. I hear a pop. And at this point, he was belly down, and I remember the ref looking in. I hear all my teammates and everybody yelling. I remember looking out of the corner of my eye, and I saw Gilbert Melendez gotten out of quite a few things to that. So I'll be working on even more jujitsu, and I've identified what I need to work on even more from this fight, and I will not be getting into that position again. Anyway, I get out of that. I slam him in my corner in front of Coleman, Matt, and Shane, and they're just telling me rain down elbows, don't stop. And I hear the bell rings, get back to our corner, and then third round starts off, and I'm like, okay, I got it. I got it. I think I see it. I start off in southpaw, and I start the round off with switch kick, or sorry, no, I was an orthodox. Landed the leg kick, stepped through to southpaw, and I started targeting his body again, which brought down the hands. Lead jab to the body from southpaw, rear kick, wrapping my foot right around his liver. You see his hands kind of bring it down. And then I feint the jab from orthodox. He pulls his hand down thinking that I'm going to go jab the body, then spinning back fist, lands right on the elbow. I remember I hit him and I slipped on one of the logos and I kind of spun out into the opposite corner. And I looked back and I pointed. I was like, holy crap, I did it. And I get back into his guard and I just keep going. Eventually, his eyes started rolling back a little bit and the ref pulled me off after a couple of elbows. And yeah, just just goes to show you, no matter how hard you game plan for a fight, or no matter how dominant you are in a fight, you can still get caught in submissions, like myself getting in that armbar. And yeah, I'm just glad it's not broken. It's a little tender, a little tight, but I'll be right back to training ASAP for the next one.
Well, that was an incredibly detailed breakdown. Thanks for giving us not only the details, but being honest. Obviously, the second round with the fourth armbar. And it's good, you know, there's an expression, and it's certainly true. There's an expression in fighting where you win or learn, as opposed to saying win or lose, because every losing opportunity is an opportunity to win. I mean, you know this, your only loss so far was in your debut, right? And as an amateur, I should say, to clarify, as an amateur. And so, and there are careers that start out that way. But I think you learn or you learn. All wins should be learning, just like what you experienced, what worked well, obviously something to clean up on. But like you said, you figured out his timing. I love it. I give credit to the Dominator, Dominic Cruz, for using a very variety of stances and movements. And sounds kind of like what you were talking about, you know. And I always say, in even pure kickboxing or Muay Thai, which is more traditional to pick a stance and stay with it, I think kickboxing or Muay Thai works better if they do flow between stances, because you mentioned a kick. As soon as you kick, you can either bring that kick all the way back and retract it. Sometimes that happens naturally by bouncing off or by retracting it. But there are a lot of times where a kick, you can plant right where it, you know, like you land it down and now you're in whatever the opposite stance is. And you kind of talked about that. So really cool, kind of setting them up with a pattern. Very cool stuff. From what you remember, a belly down armbar, you know, is oftentimes very impossible to get out of. Clearly it was hyperextended, all that. Do you think there was a technical, even if you don't want to share it, do you think there was a technical escape you hit? Or do you think it was just more a matter of his hips eventually loosened down below the, you know, below the elbow where he's no longer has the torque? Or did you hitchhike escape? Or was it that would fall into the technical? Was it a technical escape, or was it more just gutted until it was loose?
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit of both.
Oh, sure.
Just kind of just holding out, but at the same time, since it was my left arm that was hyperextended, I used my left leg to push on his elbow and also wrap around my own leg and his body, or sorry, around my own arm and his body to alleviate some pressure. Just enough pressure to hold on. And I could tell that his arms were getting tired.
Okay.
I didn't feel as much pressure on from his hips, because he went belly down and then
Right.
he went to the side and then he went back to his back, and then I kind of was facing him And I remember it was like there was one drop of blood that came down from my nose and went right onto his leg. And then I was just like, no way I'm tapping, no way. He's got to break it off. But yeah, just outlasting him, maybe a bit of luck, but I'll make sure that if I ever do get into a position like that again, I will not or he will not be my opponent will not be able to finish because I'll be already gone.
Well, sure. And I mean, I appreciate there's an old mindset in BJJ. You go from a bad position to a less bad position, right? Like you went from belly down, armbar, where he was belly down, which is very hard. And then he went side and then back to like kind of traditional on his back. And so obviously from there, you have a lot more sort of practical things you're used to doing. But it's also really cool that you used sort of some creativity, right? I doubt you're doing a lot of practice of throwing your leg in and doing that. But the reality is some creativity in grappling can work, right? Sometimes you just have to kind of find something that allows you to hang in there. It's also really cool that all as tight as that was, you're dominating the first, dominating the second, dominating the third. And so sometimes, working out of a bad situation in an otherwise great fight, you kind of get a great win and you get a close scare with a lot, with kind of a gut check at the same time. So in many ways, I'm sure every fighter kind of doesn't want to be put in bad positions where your elbow's hurting, in a bad spot, and you could potentially have not survived that. But it's also really great that with all the dominating, you knocked him down multiple times, you had a great finish, and you had a fight through. It kind of reminds me, of course, this is meant as a compliment, as the fighter, not the person. But when John Jones had Vitor Belfort on his elbow, on his arm, otherwise, and it did hyperextend, and he talked about that being the closest to him being finished. But otherwise, he was dominating that fight. But sometimes that's what happens. So it's what's exciting. I've been talking to a lot of flyweights. I just had Cody Madcat Matthews on. I don't know if you know him. He knocked out Victor Lopari for 247. He's a pro flyweight. You're a pro flyweight. So let's just talk just a little bit about how wrong the mindset 5 years ago was, that flyweights were boring and didn't get enough finishes, and the UFC was thinking about getting rid of the flyweight division. You have 2 finishes in your pro career. I think flyweights, very exciting, very technical, gas tank for days, and all that stuff. So how kind of excited are you and proud of you of being a flyweight and kind of making a run at flyweight, or I guess potentially at some point bantamweight, but kind of what are your thoughts returning to LFA, your next fight, and kind of how exciting flyweights are? Even at the UFC level now, flyweights are really exciting fight of the year candidates when Figueroa was the champ and stuff like that.
I think this year, 2023, I think we'll start seeing a lot more flyweight start to rise as well. Also look at your Brandon Royvals, look at your Kai Kara France. Everybody's so technical, yet everybody also says, "Oh, flyweights don't have any power." Kai Kara France, the Davison Figueiredo, like so many. It's just a contradiction onto what everybody's always saying about flyweights. So we can be exciting, and I'm excited to be part of a division that's slowly getting more and more recognition, and hopefully more main event spots, not just for myself, but like all flyweights as well. Because like you were saying, gas tank for days, technique, nonstop action from the east side of the cage back to the west side of the cage, back to the east side of the cage, just all over the place, no wasted movements, and got some good scrappers as well.
Well, it is exciting to kind of, for you being, about a year ago, you were really the hot prospect in flyweight regional because of your incredible amateur career. I mean, not just what I'm saying, Tapology had you really high ranked. That was the first time you came on the show. We talked about that. And now here you are as an undefeated 2-0 pro, looking to get back on another LFA card in the future, just to develop that. So it's really been an honor to have been along the journey so far. I know I'm going to continue to follow you. I'd love to have you back on the show for many years to come as not only your career increases, but like what we just talked about, the flyweight divisions. And this really is an example. I've been talking a lot, and it's no disrespect to anybody, but there are amateur fights. I've seen them live for 247 fighting championships. They're amateur fights, advanced amateur, sometimes even just good amateur, even if they're not advanced, that could have been like pro fights 10 years ago, would have been pro fights.
Oh, 100%.
Right. And it's no disrespect to anybody. It's just, like you mentioned, skill sets are improving. You're 5 or 6 layers of technical training before your first amateur debut, which really never happened before. I mean, there were guys back in the early thousands, definitely in the 90s. There was no amateur. A lot of them just debuted as pro and wrestling or boxing, kickboxing, whatever, and made it work. So it's really great to see.
Or street fighting, right?
Oh no! Remember back when the UFC would put like their street record of 120 wins and 0 losses and stuff. There was a guy that got caught saying that, and eventually UFC was like, "Yeah, maybe it wasn't real." Like they would just throw out anything, They would just make stuff up. But it really is kind of cool to see the layers of complexity and excitement. I think the comment somebody in MMA world said that probably 10 years ago, anybody that is today in the top, let's say 10 range would have been champ, 10 years ago. Not that there weren't great champs 10 years ago, but the level of difficulty of what, let's say an 8 to 10 range is in the UFC now would have been, right there at the champ level.
World beaters.
Yeah. So it's just really cool to see. And obviously I have tons of respect for Mighty Mouse. He's still competitive, still competing. And he did set the bar for the number of record of defenses. And
absolutely,
I would say he is the most entertaining, one of the most entertaining fighters of all times, a GOAT status. He got crapped on by the UFC a lot. But I would imagine, with no disrespect to DJ, that you and other flyweights in the next 5 years, and that's probably going to be like right when you're peaking in the next 5 years, are going to be more technically sound and better than DJ was. That's just because DJ's peak was, by that point, it'll have been 10 years ago. Like every 10 years or so, a lot changes in MMA because it is such a new developing sport. So
absolutely. I respect that greatly, that you said that maybe one day we can be compared to Demetrius, but he's really the trendsetter and someone that we at every flyweight and even bantamweight, because he competes at bantamweight now and used to compete at bantamweight back in the day for UFC. But I'm not going to be the next Demetrius Johnson. I'm going to be the first Joshua Perreira.
Absolutely. And that's what the mindset is that you've been coming along with. The Flyin Hawaiian nickname is just fantastic. I love it. So it's always great having you on the show. It's an honor. It's so fantastic to be able to congratulate you on your incredible gutsy there in the armbar, and then a great technical finish with ground and pound.
Won't happen again. I'll tell you that.
No, but still, that's still a credit. Still, it's not an insult. It's a credit to say
absolutely.
Sometimes gutting a bad position out and having some technique to be able to survive it is all testament to what championship level mindset training. You mentioned that the guys in your corner are all champion world class fighters in their own right. So thanks so much for coming on the show. You've been listening to Luke Payson from MMA Fancast with the Flyin Hawaiian, Josh Perreira. Thanks so much. Undefeated flyweight pro. Future
Thank you.
is bright. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. Always an honor. And I know I'll see you again soon. Thank you, brother.
Got it. Take care.
Bye.